All right, Nuggets fans, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends over at BetOnline and number 30. I just realized this camera's kind of off. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn, part of NBA Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here to discuss last night's Denver Nuggets win and kick off what is going to be an interesting week for the Nuggets as they don't play a lot. They don't play a lot of games in this upcoming week, and we'll talk about that in the coming days. There's no doubt about it, but I am here. I am very excited to be able to chat about Denver and what's going on and have a good time with it. It's going to be good. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. Would really, really appreciate it. Trying to put out as much content as possible, and I think I'm going to have some pretty good content for people in the coming days. So make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to be excited about it. The Nuggets, they're 7-3 through their first 10 games and deserve to be credited for that. Really, really impressive stuff from the Nuggets in general. Sorry, just messing with this mic, and it is clearly, for whatever reason, the placement of things is not where I want it to be. But it is what it is. Again, I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. This podcast, as you know, it's brought to you by the good folks over at BetOnline, the world's most trusted source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds on everything football, NBA, NHL, to entertainment props. There's just plenty of things that you can choose to wager on if you so want to. Head on over to BetOnline today to get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. Once again, I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn. Hopefully you guys didn't hear too much of the darn trash truck that is just rolling through outside my apartment complex right now. Not my favorite, but it is what it is. What a game last night. What a moment last night. What a moment for the Denver Nuggets over the course of these last 5 games. 5-game homestand. They lost on the final road game before they came in. They were 2-3, and they were having some pretty tough matchups here. I know that like Toronto's not the toughest matchup, and Utah's not the toughest matchup, but between OKC, Miami, and Dallas, especially with the injury to Aaron Gordon, I did not think the Nuggets were going to get through that unscathed. And they did. They managed to get through it. And a big reason for that, Nikola Jokic, he was awesome. We're going to talk about him in just a bit. First, I'm going to talk about the shot from Michael Porter Jr. I think that's very important. Michael Porter hadn't taken a shot all fourth quarter last night. He hadn't taken a shot. They beat the Dallas Mavericks 122-120. And the biggest reason for that in the end was Michael Porter Jr.'s poise and his ability to stay present in the moment, to be ready for that. And despite the fact that he wasn't super involved, he got a floater. Like, how many times have you seen Mike hit the floater in the clutch? Like, usually you're seeing a jump shot. Usually you're seeing a step back, something like that, maybe a cut to the rim. But Michael Porter hit a floater, got around Kyrie Irving, got a step on him, and then got it cleanly and uncontested, frankly. It was a big shot, too. And like, it's just something that shows the ever expanding part of his game where he's a little bit more comfortable in different areas. He's not just a jump shooter anymore. He's averaging more assists per game this year. He's averaging more rebounds per game this year. He's doing a lot of different things with the ball. And he's just, I think, fitting into what the Nuggets are doing just a little bit better than he ever has. So really excited for Mike. And really excited for the moment for the Nuggets that, look, as much as I want to celebrate Nikola Jokic, and as much as Jamal Murray often gets celebrated when he gets these opportunities, it is always nice to have a new hero for the Nuggets to celebrate and for Nuggets fans to celebrate every single time. Game before or against OKC, it was Peyton Watson, right? Christian Braun has been the hero for much of these first 10 games with the way that he has started the season. Now Michael Porter Jr. gets his moment, and that's awesome. Like, that's a great thing for the team camaraderie. That's a great thing for the fans. There's a lot of people that wanted to see Michael Porter Jr. have this moment, and he deserved it. He has been fitting in. He's been doing everything that he's been asked to do, And just really, really excited for him to have that. But on to Nikola Jokic. 37 points, 18 rebounds, 15 assists. It's a line that's never happened before in NBA history and just continues the onslaught against the opposition. Has been unbelievable. And I love where he's at, man. I love where he continues to play, how he continues to do this, and the overall responsibility that he has to himself, to the Nuggets. It's very high. There's no doubt about it. It's a crazy amount of responsibility, and everybody I think understands that and appreciates that. Michael Malone joked about it pregame and joked about it postgame, but I do think that part of it, and I'll talk about this in the third segment. You've got a nice break in the schedule here. Doing this through the first 10 games was not really a surprise to me for Joker. Nothing's ever going to surprise me from him anymore. Now he's going to get 4 days off and they're going to get a little bit of a break. And I think that the minutes after that will come down. But in the meantime, he is currently averaging an insane number of points, an insane number of assists, and an insane number of rebounds. He is at, as a player right now, 29.7 points per game, 13.7 rebounds per game, 11.7 assists per game. And that means that he's got 297 points, 137 rebounds, 117 assists on the season. He is currently shooting a higher percentage from 3 than he is from 2. Let that sink in for a second. He is shooting 56.4% from 3 and 56.4 or 56.2% from 2. That is insane. And what he has done to stay comfortable, to stay connected, to like shoot these shots and play the way that he has from the 3-point line has been like very, very important. 22 of 39 from 3 so far. And he's leading the NBA in offensive rebounds. He's leading the NBA in total rebounds. He has 6 triple doubles. He's been unbelievable. And last night was just another example of that. I thought that he would have a big game when Derek Lively was out, when PJ Washington was out, Maxi Kleber didn't play. These are moments for Joker where you're going to go up against Daniel Gafford and Dwight Powell. Like, are you sure that you can't throw any other size at him? Because the other factor with this is the way that the Mavericks personnel was going. Najee Marshall was their power forward. Klay Thompson, already like in a smaller lineup, is their small forward. So there's just not a lot of help that the Mavericks are able to give to their centers. And he was amazing. He was dynamic. It was a very, very important moment for him and like very, very important for the Nuggets to get through that. So what more can you say about Nikola Jokic, man? He has been unbelievable, and just it's really exciting to be able to enjoy this moment from him. On the season, you'll get a kick out of this. On the season, he has a box plus minus of plus 15.1. Here are his box plus minuses in each of the last 5 years. You know, the really good years, like MVP caliber years, all-timer caliber years. 12.1, 13.7, the all-time record, 13.0, 13.2, and now 15.1. That's preposterous. Like it just is. And his ability to shine through in all of these different situations, all these different moments, doesn't matter whether he's playing Rudy Gobert or Bam Adebayo or Daniel Gafford. Like he's going to play the same. He's going to approach it in the same way, and he's going to score and pass and rebound in different ways. But no matter what, he's going to do those things. And it is clear that the team is fully trusting in him right now, and he feels that trust, and he has been receptive to that throughout the entire time. He was crediting teammates and coaching staff and training staff and the strength and conditioning crew over the course of last night. And I think that everybody, it doesn't just happen because of Jokic. I think people have to appreciate that there are so many people that go into making this operation possible for the Nuggets. It's not just Joker. It's everybody around him that is fully bought into his greatness, fully bought into what he can do. And they're like, we are going to make sure that you are doing that you are at the best peak of your powers possible, that we are setting everything up for you to take us home, because that's just what the Nuggets organization is right now. People like to say that it's a Jokic carry job, and it is in some respects for sure. But a lot of it is because the team believes in him. The team knows what they have, and they know that he can do it. And so the full-hearted faith that everybody has in him being this version, you don't see that often. You just don't. And Jamal could have gone off script last night. Mike could have gone off script. And he did for the game winner. And I think he should probably go a little bit more off script. But Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Russell Westbrook, these guys are buying in to what Joker is selling, to what Joker is doing. And that is a really, really important piece of why he has been so successful this year. Part of it is the minutes and part of it is the burden, but also everybody is like, that guy is awesome. We're going to make sure that he is set up for success. And as it turns out, that's a pretty good way to win. So, been really, really impressive. Denver's going to have to find other ways to win throughout the season, but right now they are winning through Jokic. Right now they are winning because he is the best player in the world, and it's been awesome to watch it. I have agendas too, just like everybody else. Somebody told me last night that he's not a top 15 player yet. I'm like, all right. You want to play that game? Sure. Let's just wait and see what the career looks like at the end. And then anybody that makes an argument that he's not a top 15 player of all time can probably go kick rocks. So it's been incredible, man. I don't know how many players in my lifetime have ever been this dominant, ever. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the rest of the Nuggets. We'll talk about Kyrie Irving's explosion and how crazy that was to watch in person and everything else in between. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Let's get into let's go Kyrie Irving first. He was unbelievable. Just watching what he was able to do last night, despite the fact that some of the contests were good, some of the contests were not good. But some of the contests that the Nuggets were putting at him were really good. And he was just hitting shots because he is Kyrie Irving. That was an incredible display. Kyrie last night, 43 points on 22 shots and 3 free throws. That's insane. 17 of 22 from the field, 6 of 8 from 3, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. It was just mostly buckets. But the way that he was approaching that and the way that he was continuing to get to his spots, continuing, no matter what the contest was, getting to the place that he wanted to score and shooting and making, whether it was a bank shot, whether it was just draining nothing but the bottom, whether it was from the corner, he was on one last night. And the way that you just have to tip your cap to a guy like that mostly. I do think that there were times where Christian could not stay attached to him, just couldn't do it. And there is something to Christian having to deal with shiftier guards, quicker players that he's not necessarily able to keep up with. That's one thing where you talk about the differences between him and KCP. KCP would probably do a little bit better on the Steph Currys, the Damian Lillards, the Kyrie Irvings, guys like that, and the ability to stick with them as a technician. Christian Brown's going to be better against the athletic guys, against the guys that are very physical, where he can use his physicality and his athleticism to go right back at them. And we saw that a couple of times against Luka, but not enough. I thought that both of those guys, Kyrie and Luka, They were really taking it to Christian Braun last night. And that's not to denigrate Christian Braun. He'll bounce back. He'll be better. But it's just what happened. And it was very, very impressive to watch those guys play. The shot making in this game was really, really impressive. And sometimes you just got to tip your cap, man. Like that's sometimes how it goes. But in the future, in this matchup, I'm curious to see how Denver would deal with that. Do they try to let Christian work through that? I assume Aaron Gordon guards Luka Doncic when he comes back and they're in a playoff series. Peyton Watson will be a guy that they deploy schematically throughout. And maybe there are some different things that they do, but Christian's going to be a starter in the playoffs, and I'm curious to see how they handle that matchup. Luka had 24, 9, and 9. It wasn't his best night. He only shot 2 of 8 from 3, and he continues to be kind of inefficient when it comes to some of those shots. Now, he was dynamic, and I thought the decisions that he made were mostly good, and like he set up Daniel Gafford really well in the first half. Daniel Gafford was 7 of 7 in the first half, primarily on Luka Doncic assists. Daniel Gafford finished 7 of 9. And the way that the Nuggets changed up that coverage, I think, really impacted their team in a positive way. So good things from Jokic figuring some stuff out, and then the Nuggets coverages on the backside figuring some stuff out. But it really was just Kyrie and Luka trying to figure stuff out on the fly. But overall, like, there were some good things to be had from last night's game. Dallas is a really good team. They obviously didn't have Derek Lively or PJ Washington. Denver didn't have Aaron Gordon. So you could say this is not a full strength matchup, but Denver had their stars and Dallas had theirs. And it was a lot of fun to watch. I do think that Jamal Murray at times, not necessarily how I would have approached it if I were him. Not that I have that much experience in the NBA, we'll just say that. But I do think that Jamal, 18 points, 6 assists, 7 of 17 from the field. He did miss 3 free throws as well. He's got to get better from the free throw line. He had been so great up through the first 9 games of the season, or however many free throws he had taken. Missing 3 free throws, including 2 in the clutch, was kind of weird, kind of wild. The 2 threes that he hit were dribbling off the dribble to his left and getting to a spot and then being willing to rise and fire. I want to see more of that from him. And I think that some of the other shots that he took were not my favorite. He did lead the team in plus minus, so there's something to be said for that. Plus 15 in his 38 minutes. Most of the time was shared with Joker, and that's probably a big reason why. But I do think that like there are some things that he needs to improve. His defense continues to also stand out to me as pretty bad. And there are tons of things that I'm going to have to figure out with him. But there's a second game back. We'll see what he looks like after this long break and if he can continue to figure some stuff out on the fly. Christian Braun, as I mentioned, got a lot of stuff that went against him on the defensive end, but he still managed 14 points, 5 of 10 from the field, only 1 of 2 from 3. But the 3 that he hit was on a kick out from Jokic. That was a big play. And then Peyton Watson. We got to get to Peyton, who I thought between the two of them, he was the better one, especially defensively in this particular matchup. But 16 points, he played 40 minutes. He led the team in minutes at 40. That's a big deal. Like, people aren't going to think too much about that. I don't think, but think about what he was playing early on in the season. It was like in between 10 and 15 minutes because the rhythm just wasn't there. The feeling just wasn't there of how he was supposed to impact things. 16 points, 6 of 9 from the field, 4 of 4 from 3, 5 rebounds, split time on Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Most of the time he was on Luka. And I think just the way that he handled it was really, really impressive. And the confidence that he's currently shooting from 3 is ridiculous. On the season now, remember when he started the season like 1 of 10 from 3 and just wasn't really on track? Now he's up to 39%. It's pretty good. that is a pretty good number. Now, there are still some things he's got to figure out. The 2-point shooting, he's only at 41.7% on twos. And that's got to change because of how athletic he is, how big he is. He can do some things that are different there. But if that's not the most, like he's still averaging 23 minutes a night so far this year. The starting minutes have been very big. And he's just figuring some things out on the fly that I'm not sure anybody really fully expected. Interestingly enough, just kind of looking at the per game numbers here, he is averaging the 8th most points on the team, but he's up to 8.4. And the progression that he's making as a scorer is a big deal. So as Ben Max says here, these games are tremendous for Peyton's confidence. There's a lot to be liked about what he's doing and what he's accomplishing so far this season. Going from without a training camp to not necessarily fitting in with the bench unit, starting to figure some things out with the bench unit, and then ultimately flourishing as a starter. Everybody's going to look good next to Jokic. There's no doubt about it, but it takes a certain person. It takes a certain mind. It takes a certain temperament to be able to handle it. And he has handled it well. So this should be a very interesting, positive development for Nuggets fans. Despite the fact that Aaron has been out, the Nuggets have been able to survive. And a big reason why is Peyton Watson. Other guys that played, mentioned Jamal. He was subpar. There's some good shots that he hits, but there's still a lot to be desired there. Christian Brown figuring some, in an off night, he had 14 points. Peyton Watson figured some stuff out. Russell Westbrook, I didn't think that Russ was very good last night. There were a couple of things that he did as a playmaker that I thought were nice, but he was the team low at -13 in the plus minus, and I just don't think that this is a good matchup for him when he has to face a rim protector. Dwight Powell's obviously not that big of a rim protector, but if he's facing Daniel Gafford, it's a little bit different. Dallas was the team that he struggled with in the playoffs last year, and I wonder if there's any reason for that. I don't know. It does seem like they know what they're doing against him defensively, and some of the 2 turnovers that he had were in transition. They were kind of odd decisions. And then he shot 3 of 10 and didn't get to the free throw line. So some things to figure out there, but he earns a pass because he has been so good for much of this year. And then Julian Strawther, 4 of 9 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, 2 of 3 from the line. 12 points off the bench is big. I don't want to belittle that in any way, shape, or form because that's a big number. When Denver last year was, and consistently at times at the beginning of this season, wasn't even getting 12 from their entire bench unit. Now 12 points from Strawther, playing 23 minutes, figuring some stuff out. He had a steal and 2 blocks. Did some good things on the hustling end. Just really doing a lot and trying to figure some stuff out on the fly. So Denver went with an 8-man rotation last night. Michael Malone talked about how he wanted to match Luka Doncic's minutes with Peyton Watson, and he did that. Peyton played every minute that Luka played, other than maybe a couple minutes at the beginning of the fourth quarter. But it was just a really, really impressive performance from everybody involved. And the Nuggets, I think, have figured some stuff out and what they're trying to accomplish with this particular group. How they figure it out with Aaron Gordon going forward will be interesting when he does ultimately come back, but they may not have to worry about that for a while. It does seem like Aaron might be out for a little bit longer than expected. Just kind of the feeling that I'm getting based off of some conversations with different people. But if they can survive, and if Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther and Christian Brown continue to step up into these larger roles, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will be better when they have a smaller role, but I think it does show to Michael Malone that he can trust them in these different moments. So hopefully that works. Hopefully the Nuggets continue to figure out. Big win for Denver. Big win for Denver last night, despite the fact that Kyrie Irving was going off, despite the fact that they were doing some important things. I think that Denver's figuring it out. Cedric asks, and he's very adamant that I answer this question, is P-Watt in Michael Malone's circle of trust yet? Last night he certainly was. I think that Michael Malone is trying to get him there. When he sees Peyton Watson playing the way that he's playing, he can definitely like argue it. What I will say is that if it were up to me, there's still some things that I want to see from him. I want to see him be able to go off the dribble a little bit more as an offensive player. I want to see what happens when a team continues to dare him in a playoff environment. You're just not going to answer some of those questions until the playoffs arrive. And that's so far off that we're going to have plenty of time in between now and then to figure some stuff out. But I want to see him playmaking a little bit more. I want to see him just identifying different things. And I want to see him shutting down some offensive players. There are things that he can do. He hasn't really shut down anybody yet. That's coming. Like it'll happen. But the question is, can he do the things that KCP and Aaron Gordon were doing from a starting lineup position? He did it from a bench position last year in the regular season. We'll see if he can continue to do it. I'm open to the idea that he will, though. Like he has shown a lot. All right, let's take one more break. When we come back, we are going to talk about how the Nuggets went 7-3 in their first 10 games and now have 4 days off. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. Back at it, final segment, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button down below. Would really, really appreciate it, folks. Let's wrap things up by talking about Denver goes 7-3, man. Like, I didn't expect that. They are currently 4th in the Western Conference by themselves. There are other teams that have started off the season pretty strong. There are other teams that have kind of faltered at times. Overall, though, the Nuggets, they have maintained their focus. They've done what they needed to do, and they are currently 6th in the NBA in record by themselves, despite the fact that they started off slow, despite the fact that things were a little bit shaky at the beginning. They figured it out. 5 in a row is nothing to sneeze at, and nobody should be belittling that and bemoaning that. There are things, obviously, you'd want to work on. There are things that you'd want to be better at. Michael Malone, I'm sure, would love to be better defensively. Just looking at some of the numbers right now, Denver's giving up, what, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're giving up the 6th most opponent points per game right now. That's a lot. That's a lot. Part of it, by the way, is Denver's playing at kind of a faster pace. They're doing some different things that I don't think I expected them to do this year. I thought that they would be a little bit faster, but to see them being a lot of bit faster is very impressive, very interesting. The Nuggets are still trying to figure some stuff out and how they are going to approach the Russell Westbrook minutes, how they're going to approach the Jokic minutes with the bench, what they're going to look like on a consistent basis. But they're 7th in pace. I did not expect that at the beginning of the year. And even when Murray has come back, they have still played pretty fast. I thought that he would slow some things down. I'm looking forward to seeing whether this version of the Nuggets was just kind of an early season version, or if this is what we're going to get from Denver for the rest of the season. It does feel like it's kind of exhausting, and I'm not sure how much Jokic can play that pace while also averaging 38 minutes a night. Now, he's been great, and he said last night that he was not tired. And I'm not even necessarily worried about him doing it. I'm more worried about Murray trying to maintain that. But it does seem to me like Denver plays pretty well when they have a little bit more margin for error, when they have more possessions of Jokic on the floor, and when they're figuring out, hey, we like playing fast. We like doing these things. Now, they're down to 18th in defensive rating, and there are some things that they need to improve. But offense, they're 6th. And they've figured some stuff out and doing pretty well. So I like what they are trying to accomplish. They have really built their style of play on the personnel that they have. And you never want to try to force feed anything. It's why the The fact that they've gone with Zeke Naji over the course of these past few games, as opposed to Dario or DeAndre Jordan, has been a big deal off the second unit. At least they're playing a little bit faster with that group, getting up and down and getting some transition opportunities. Because I don't think that DJ and Dario could really handle that, if I'm being honest. But the most important thing for Denver now is that they get a little bit of off time. They get a little bit of time. They get a nice little break in the schedule. 4 days off in a row is a big deal for everybody, but especially Jokic. 38 minutes per game. Michael Malone was talking about how he wants to get that number down. Ideally, going into a game, he wants to play Jokic at like 34 to 35. But what the Nuggets need to do in order to accomplish that is they need to not allow Jokic to come back in the fourth quarter. Or the stints that they're having with their second unit, with their bench unit, they need those to be a little bit better and a little bit more stable. If Jokic and the Nuggets, let's say in the first 3 quarters that Jokic plays, and then going into a fourth quarter, he's at like 30 minutes. If the Nuggets are up 12 at that point, they need to have more stints going forward where they take that lead from 12 to 18 and then not have to think about bringing Jokic in until the 6-minute mark or the 5-minute mark. Like maybe it kind of shifts back at that point, but that saves time. That saves opportunity. And for Denver, you want as many opportunities as you can to get Jokic some breaks here. The Toronto minutes were big in that regard. The Utah minutes, obviously him not coming in at all, were big in that regard. And Denver, if they can get through that, they'll be good. But they've played some pretty tough teams, man. Like expecting Michael Malone to not want to play Jokic in some of these matchups, like Dallas and like OKC and Minnesota, and then he played OKC twice. And like there's just a lot to figure out there. No, I need to know why you're comparing Anthony Davis and Jamal Murray. Like, Anthony Davis has been like the third best player in the NBA this year. Yes, obviously Murray is not that. Like, what are we doing? I think that over the course of these off days, there's going to be plenty of time to discuss like what the Nuggets can do a little bit better. For now, it should be more of a celebration that they got through this first part of the schedule. The first hurdle of the Nuggets season is done. It is done. Denver Nuggets 4 days off. They'll they're off today. They might even be off tomorrow. It would not surprise me that Denver is like just going to try to take as little time as possible, and they will probably practice on Wednesday and Thursday. It wouldn't surprise me if they're like, yeah, take Tuesday off as well. And if that's the case, then there will be some things that they have to figure out before they come back. And I'm actually going to make a prediction. I know I was just talking about playing faster with Zeke. And actually, you know what? No, that's not happening. The first time the Nuggets lose, I bet they go back to Dario. I think that while they're winning, they're not going to touch the rotation. They're going to try to do things, or they're going to try to do as much as they can, play Zeke, do the consistent thing. And it just would not surprise me if they let that ride until they lose. And they might lose against Memphis on Friday. They might lose. Do they play, New Orleans? Like there's not a ton of crazy matchups that they're going to have to face over the course of these next few. New Orleans and Memphis are okay. Memphis is a good team. They're a talented team. But it's New Orleans next, and then they play Memphis twice. That's who it is. Friday, they're at New Orleans. Sunday, they're at Memphis. Tuesday, they're at Memphis. And the second of those Memphis matchups is also an in-season tournament game. And then they have a couple days off before they come back home, and they play Dallas again on Friday, November 22nd. So over the course of these next 2 weeks, they've got 5 games, and I think there's some stuff there. There's some stuff there that they're figuring out, and I think that, like I said, they got through the tough portion. Now it's about getting the rest that you need, stepping back, enjoying the moment. And hopefully Jokic gets some. I'm already seeing on social media, like, Jokic is getting a lot of love. He's getting a lot of love for what he's accomplished, for what the Nuggets are doing. And if the Nuggets are still a top 4 seed after 25 games and like Jokic is still kind of doing what he's doing, we're going to have some serious conversations, man. It's been pretty impressive to see what he's done. Folks, I think that's going to do it. I think that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline. I should have a surprise for people over the course of these next couple days. I'm excited about it. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but there's something that's in the works, and I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it is good content for people. Hopefully people get to enjoy it. Like Nolan says here, 30, 14, and 12 is awesome. Strong agree. Strong agree, my guy. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I will talk to you guys very, very soon.